All right. Should be on lesson 2 from last week. All right, just offhand, does anybody have it marked when we left off last week? From some?
Glad father.
Glad?
Glad father.
Okay.
No, I don't know. Maybe a furious man. I don't know.
Well, I forgot to mark it on my paper. Is that what you don't know because you don't have your paper?
I might have made my own notes, but I don't have anything on the glad father.
Okay,
Furious man was the last one.
I'm sorry?
Furious man.
Okay, so that would make us at the glad father then. Okay. So 1529. Well, that don't seem right, does it?
It's 20, preacher.
It's not. Oh, 15, 20, not 29. All right, so it says, a wise son maketh a glad father, but a foolish man despises his mother. Any comments? Don't everybody speak at once? It gets confusing.
Computer thing turned on.
Yeah. Gotta warm it up.
Gotta warm up.
The only thing I came up was with Luke 15:32, his father was glad his son had returned. So that was a glad father.
There you go. That'll work. That was Luke what? 15?
15:32.
Okay, Luke 15:32. And that deals with the very subject of verse 20. A wise son maketh a glad father, but a foolish man despises his mother. Anybody else have a comment? I don't do this because I can't get the lesson together. I do this to help you get the lesson. And this stuff will stick with you better if you have to work for it than if I tell you all the answers.
10:1, I think, repeats the verse, doesn't it?
Does it? Pretty much. The foolish son is a heaviness to his mother. Doesn't say that in verse 20, but again, don't have to be a matchup. You can learn something from it. A wise son maketh a glad father. I've never ever heard a dad brag about his boy who messed his life up. Yeah, he's got 20 years in Jackson, but he was a good kid, you know. That one I've heard. He was a good kid, but man alive, he couldn't stay out of trouble. And a glad father probably will talk about his son where fathers not probably won't.
How about John 8:56, preacher? Can you help me out there?
Read it.
Your father Abraham rejoiced to see my day, and he saw it and was glad.
Turn back to Genesis 22. And here we have the story of the offering of Isaac, correct? Okay. Now let's go down to verse. Let's go to verse 5. And Abraham said unto his young man, Abide ye here with the ass, and I and the lad will go yonder and worship and come again to you. And Abraham took the wood of the burnt offering and laid it upon the son, Isaac his son. And he took the fire in his hand and a knife, and they were both with them together. And Isaac spake unto Abraham and said, My father. And he said, Hear my son. And he said, Behold, the fire and the wood, but where is the lamb for a burnt offering? And Abraham said, My son, God will provide himself a lamb. And you know as well as I do who that lamb was. So he said, read it again. He said, Abraham saw it.
Your father Abraham rejoiced to see my day,
Yeah.
and he saw it and was glad.
He saw it. Turn to Hebrews 11. So he says in chapter 11, verse 15? No, we'll start with verse 16. But now they desire a better country, that is, a heavenly. Wherefore God is not ashamed to be called their God, for he hath prepared for them a city. By faith Abraham, when he was tried, offered up Isaac. He had received the promise of, offered up his only begotten son. So the picture there is Abraham saw his day in the typologies.
Okay. I tried to, but the more I looked, the worse it got.
That's all right. That's all right. At least you tried. So we're in Proverbs, wherever, 15. Okay. Anybody else got any comments on the glad father? And I'll try to do the best I can to answer your questions. I don't have all the answers.
Proverbs 27:11.
Proverbs 27:11. Okay. Okay.
Answer him that approacheth me.
There you go. Yeah. You get it. You get. Somebody may say something about one of your boys one of these days. But you know he's not a perfect boy. He'd do wrong. But he said, "Make my heart glad that I may answer him that reproaches me." Yeah, I know my boy didn't do right, but he got the things right with God. That's the way I'd handle it. I don't know who you. I don't care who you are. You're going to get reproached for your children someday down the line. Not that the reproacher doesn't have a reason, but. All right, anybody else? We can move on to the next one if you want to. The good man. Morning, sir.
The steps of good men are ordered by the Lord. Don't know the reference, I just know the song.
Yeah, I hear ya. I know that.
Well, here's an interesting thought on that. In this 2:20 says, that thou mayest walk in the way of good men and keep the paths of righteousness. Well, if you read from about verse 11 through, you find out that it's this woman again. And she's after the man. And if he walks, it says if he walks in the way of good men, then he won't get caught in that trap.
Proverbs 13:22, a good man obtaineth favor of the Lord.
Okay, all right. And I think the application, I'm sure you're aware of it, the application is
That was 12:2, I'm sorry.
12:2? Is that you got to watch where you walk. A just man falls 7 times and rises again. So a good man can mess his step up. That doesn't mean he quits. Does it over again. Look at the life of David. If anybody took some missteps, and somebody said, well, that psalm he gave before he died about his wounds stink and his friends abhor him, and, oh, okay. I don't have a problem whatsoever. Man soweth, that shall he also reap. Some of us may get by without anything on this side, and on the other side we'll get smacked in the head.
Yeah.
Did you get a paper, brother? Okay. Somebody else got a thought on the good man. Have you ever heard this said about somebody? Well, he's really a good man. And in your head, you're going, I don't think so. And you wonder sometimes if people say things like that because they have nothing else to say. In a multitude of words, there's not for the one of sin. The more you talk, the more chance you have of sinning. That's why you're probably better off just keep your mouth shut.
Well, in Proverbs, he says he obtaineth favor. In Psalms, he says he showeth favor.
The good man? Okay. That's a good point. Good point. I think when we get down to the merciful man, we'll find some of the similar comparisons. I did some of this so that you can maybe find if this character pictures your life. If it doesn't, could it?
In Matthew 20, verse 11, the good man had agreed with these men for the penny. But then there were those who were displeased with how they got paid or what they got paid.
Does it say the good man there?
Yeah,
Good man or Goodman?
Goodman of the house.
Oh, he's coming next.
Goodman house. Oh, I'm sorry.
That's all right. When I put that in there, I thought, that's going to be a confusing. The good man or the goodman?
Yeah, you should have hyphenated.
I should have. Now you tell me.
But he was still the good man of the house.
He's still the good man of the house, right?
And he still got blamed for what he agreed to do. He was still a good man.
You can be a good man and not be perfect.
Yeah.
I mean, I know a lot of men who are good men. They got some rough edges in their life, but they're good men. Anybody else? Just speak up. How was the camping? Didn't make it. My son told me he looked out the window there in Gaylord Sunday or the other day, and the traffic was at a stop on 75. I said, boy, I'm glad I'm not going anywhere. Oh, I'm sorry, Brother Gordy.
It says in Matthew 12:35, a good man out of the good treasure of his heart bringeth forth good things.
Okay. What do you think that means?
That means if his heart's right, he's gonna be right and do right.
And what do we know about the heart?
Desperately wicked.
Okay,
With Christ, he can change your heart.
right. But as a sinful human being, your heart has 7 parts to it, or 13 sins that are hidden that the Lord gave us of. Because that's what defiles a man when he comes out. But I get your point. Good man. You have to understand that a lot of these can have a layover, one for the other. Yes, sir.
Definition that goodman is the male head of the household.
Okay. Let's go to 7:19 since we've been there several times. For the goodman is not at home, for he's on a long journey. What did you say he was?
The male head of the household.
Okay.
Well, obviously, we're talking about this woman, so, but she doesn't refer to him as her husband, so I just picked that up. She just calls him good, does that mean they're not married, or she just calls him a good man because, for what reason, of her lifestyle, I don't know.
What would you think?
Well, my first thought when I read
How many women do you think go out on a Friday night or a Saturday night and never tell the people they're talking to they're married?
A lot. A lot.
So you could go either way, Brother Steve. But I would say that since she didn't say my husband's not at home, he would know from the implication of the goodman what he was talking about. I heard somebody say the other day, oh, dress doesn't make any difference. Okay. Then why does it make a difference in chapter 7 of Proverbs?
Amen.
I'm not fussing at anybody. I'm just saying you need to be careful. Some of these ideas that we get come from the world, not from the Bible. You can say what you want, but leading a biblical life is difficult. I didn't say it was impossible. I just said it's difficult. Because there's so many things that we learn from a child up. There's so many things that we learn that aren't necessarily biblical. And when we get to be 25 or 30 years old, we think they are. And if anybody says anything, we're ready to fisticuff. Anybody else?
Matthew 24:43 calls him the good man of the house.
The good man of the house?
Yeah. So I
2 words,
hyphenated in mine.
hyphenated? Okay, I better pay attention to the Bible, I guess.
Do I need to read the Bible?
But there's only 6 references to that goodman in the Bible, and most of them are in the Gospels, and it's all of them say the goodman of the house.
He's the man that's supposed to be in charge. Okay? And if he's not, guess who is? The good woman. Amen, brother? Got to help me out here. All right, 25:6, I believe is the reference. It might not be on yours. I inadvertently left it off last week when I typed. I figured you probably could look it up. 25:6 says, "Put not forth thyself in the presence of the king, and stand not in the place of great men." Okay, so let me give you a thought on this verse. You're going to stand before the king. If you're given a position to stand in that position, but don't try to make yourself great. Some people who live in this world try to make themselves great. What do you think, all the stuff about talent? Americans have talent. What do you think all that stuff is? Trying to make somebody something they're not. Because people go to any length to get a tryout to be somebody. Matter of fact, go here in the book of James. Let's see here. I thought it was chapter 4, but I don't see it. Where he talked about going in to a feast and well, I'm not seeing it.
Is it chapter 2? I think?
It must be. Yeah, that's it. Look at verse 1. My brethren, have not the faith of our Lord Jesus Christ, the Lord of glory, with respect to persons. For if there come into your assembly a man with a gold ring and goodly apparel, and come in a poor man in vile raiment, and ye have respect to him that weareth any gay clothing, and say to him, sit thou here in a good place, and say to the poor man, stand thou here and sit here under my footstool. Are ye not then partial in yourselves? So don't try to be somebody. When you get that way, you become partial. You only tend to lean toward people with the gold rings. And if you're going to have friends, man said the best way to have friends is have friends from the lowest. You can find somebody in the middle, and somebody up here. Don't have all your friends here. Don't have all your friends here. Some people don't know anything about poor people because they never befriend a poor person. And I realize that the society you're living in, people make themselves poor so that they don't have to work. I understand that. But from a biblical standpoint, don't make yourself something. And don't be partial to a man who comes in, oh, take the front seat here, man. Give him a seat wherever there's a seat. Anybody else with a thought here?
Job 32 says great men are not always wise.
Point? Yes, sir. But Tony?
I had the same one.
Oh, did you? Okay.
Revelation 6:15 says those great men are going to be hiding.
Yep. You might be a great man, but when the Lord gets ready to fix this earth, great or not great, you're going to be looking for a place to hide.
Yep.
Anybody else?
Matthew 5, Beatitude, Matthew 5:19, whosoever shall do and teach the least commandments shall be called great in the kingdom of heaven.
Okay, I didn't quite get all that, brother.
Whosoever shall break one of these least commandments and shall teach men so shall be called the least in the kingdom of heaven. Whosoever shall do and teach them the same shall be called great in the kingdom of heaven.
Right. So here's what I'm careful about when I teach the Bible. I want to be sure I'm teaching the best I know how to teach it, in line with what it teaches itself. I don't want to be guilty of having to stand before God someday and say, you messed that one up bad. And I know we're not perfect, and I realize probably God looks over a lot of things. Bible says that there was a time when God winked at their idolatry because they didn't have a law to follow. When they got a law, no longer did he wink at it. He requires men everywhere to repent. If you take the Bible and take all of it and apply it to yourself, you're going to get into world big trouble because you don't apply to all of it. And if there's anything that bothers people nowadays, it's dispensation. A guy said to me one time, I suppose you're a dispensationalist. I said, you suppose correctly. Anybody else with a thought? It doesn't have to be a thought on what we're looking at. If something that you're reading in the verse makes you say, I don't know what that means, I'll be glad to try it. I can get all the answers, but I'll give it a try. Okay, then we probably should go to the new sheet, number 3. The first one shouldn't be hard. A madman. So he says in chapter 26, verse 18, as a madman who casteth firebrands, arrows, and death. So you kind of have to go back up and look at verse 16. The sluggard is wiser in his own conceit than 7 men that can render a reason. That's the subject.
Verse 19.
Yeah, that's an interesting one here. So that's comparison to verse 18, right? So is the man that deceiveth his neighbor and saith, am I not in sport? You can figure that out, can't you? That's the guy who's played a trick on somebody, and the guy goes, what did you do that for? I was just having some fun. One of the things people used to do, and I don't know if they still do it, but I was growing up as a kid, and somebody get ready to sit down, they'd pull their chair out. And you can put somebody in real trouble, breaking their spine or pinching a nerve, out of sport, having fun. I know a kid that was deaf in, I think it was his right ear, and somebody was in the band with him, and they thought it would be funny to take a trumpet and blow it in his ear. And of course, busted his eardrum, so. That's the idea of this verse. As a man who casteth firebrands, arrows, and death, so is a man that deceiveth his neighbor and saith, am I not in sport? Somebody says, well, can't you have some fun? At whose expense? Anybody else have a thought? Can you think of any mad men in the Bible? Thou art mad, okay.
King of Britain, called Paul.
Yeah, called Paul a madman. Right.
Saul,
Man at Gadara.
Saul, before David, king of Israel, before David, he was a bad man.
Oh yeah, he said, what, I need a madman for my, yeah.
The guy from Gadara that was in the tombs and running naked and break chains and all that. He was a madman.
He's almost more mad, wasn't he? And it gets hidden in America. I'm sure that it goes on every day of the week, every week of the year in this country. But it gets hidden. See, how's it get hidden? Drugs. They give them a shot of morphine or something. So we don't deal with stuff like that anymore because nobody believes the Bible.
Amen.
So therefore, it couldn't be biblical.
get over it.
Yeah.
He accused Jesus of being mad. He said that someone's out to kill me.
Yeah, this thou art mad.
And I think the multitude was filled with madness when he was teaching. They tried to kill him.
A madman's not anything new. And I'm afraid that they got children on medication for ADHD and ASB and PQ, RST, UV, WXYZ. And all they're doing is drugging these kids. And you wonder why they do what they do. Okay, I'll quit preaching. All right. Anybody else on the madman?
Well, to be mad is to be very angry or extremely foolish. I think we have thousands and thousands of them today.
Oh, yeah. I've always thought you almost had to be a madman to box. I mean, you're hitting the other guy and you don't want him to hit you and you're trying to knock him out. Thou art a madman. I tiptoe like a butterfly. All right, Proverbs 1. Okay. A wise man will hear and will increase learning, and a man of understanding shall attain unto wise counsel. So, not necessarily a person, but a character of that person, a man of understanding. Have you ever tried to get somebody to understand something they didn't want to understand?
Daniel was men of understanding.
Yes, he was. A man of understanding to me is a person who understands the result of what you're going to say or do. All right, I think we'll hold it for right there, and then next week we'll pick up on the meddling man.